Hi everyone, it's Jerry. The FIDE World Cadets Rapid and Blitz Chess Championships just came to a close. This was an event that took place from June 21st through June 25th of 2018 in Belarus's capital Minsk. Here's a look at the playing venue. At this event, Tihon Chernyaev from Ukraine became a double world chess champion. He did this by competing in the open division, under age 10, and winning the Rapid and Blitz events. Now, pay close attention to the following numbers. I really want you to have some perspective here. Tihon was playing among other 8-year-olds, 8.5, 9, 9.5. It makes a big deal at that age, 6 months, okay? Tihon is 8 years and 4 months old and entered both events as the top seed. He entered the Rapid event with a rating of 2143. That placed him nearly, you ready? Nearly 300 points above his nearest competitor. He finished with 8 out of 9 points, 7 wins, 2 draws, clear first. He entered the Blitz event with a rating of 2,084. That placed him nearly 250 points above his nearest competitor. He finished the Blitz with 8.5 out of 9. Clear first. Tihon, I am very excited for you. I'm very excited for your family. That is such a fantastic achievement. You are a little Superman. Wow. I look forward to continuing to tracking your progress. Now, I'd like to share with you all one of Tihon's wins. His final win of the event. It's a blitz game against a fantastic player who is having a wonderful event, a 9.5-year-old from Russia, Gordey Kolesov. So let's dive in here and see how Tihon did it. We have a D-pawn game, Slav defense. Both players are very quick to get the pieces out. This is a lengthy game that goes right down to a rook and pawn endgame, and there are some instructive moments. So, first moment to note, A4, looking for A5. This is locked down straight away. There's a focal point, a hole, now on B4. From here, B3, bishop E7. The dark square bishops in this game remain in tension for a handful of moves. I think both sides would do well to initiate the exchange in this case. On black's part, to take here is to basically demote the rook. It's less flexible and unprotected, both negatives. So from here, castles, queen d2, c5. A lot of tension in the center. Let's see how it develops. C-file is now half opened. Knight e5. From here, we have a chain reaction of captures. First, the bishop is knocked out. C-pawn is captured. And we're not done yet. This quickly enters an endgame now. Kicking off with knight takes knight. Queen takes queen. Knight e4. And in the end, after the smoke clears and we're in this much more simplified endgame, white is the side who is a tiny bit better. Reason for this, white is the first side who can apply some pressure to a pawn, and black will have to crawl up into a ball some and play a defensive role. So in the game, it's rook d6. The computer's a fan of striking at this pawn along a file. We'll see why it's better to strike along a file. After rook d6, Tihon comes up with a top move, bishop c6, not defending the pawn directly, just interfering with rook takes bishop, and at the same time exerting pressure on a4. This is tying down the rook. So the bishop on c6 is challenged straight away with bishop f3. Computer likes to first insert f4, but okay. First bishop f3 straight away. Bishop takes bishop. White recaptures with the pawn. White understands that doubled pawn's generally not good, but there's good reason behind this, I'm sure. White wants a flight square in this case. C pawn and B pawn are exchanged. In this endgame, black stands better. Reason, structure is better, and the rook is more active. Right? This is an active versus a passive rook. Tihon's next move is a very good one, a top move by Stockfish, a best move. Rook to A8. Now, this is a move that was anticipating that white is going to play rook to A6 and put pressure on this pawn. It's true you'd be able to defend it like with rook to C5, but the rook wants to stay in an active post. Rook A8, a very strong move. From here, rook to B7. And move 24 here for black. A strong move would be G5. I really like this move G5 in this position. Not only is it creating a flight square, but it is clamping down on not one, not two, but basically these three pawns. They're never going to be able to advance to the fourth rank when this pawn is on G5. So a little bit of something is lost here with the advantage by black. Rook C5 was played in the game, giving white an opportunity to expand some with the doubled pawns. F4 is a good move. Now the rook returns, keeping an eye on a couple white pawns. White is looking for some back rank stuff. Flight square is produced. One rook is off. This is actually an interesting moment when I was reviewing for this video, checking this game out, testing different variations. There's actually a move F5 here. I'm not going to go into all the details, but there's this move F5. Take with the G pawn, there's rook G6 stuff, or rook G3 stuff. And if you take with this pawn, that means this guy becomes mobile. And there's ideas to put two rooks on the 7th and then pry open the king with E6. F5, very interesting move. I could see plenty of players overlooking this idea. Anyhow, as it plays out here, one rook is exchanged, so this turns from being a tactical position, two rooks still on board, tactical, one rook apiece, it's a technical position. And in this one, black is up a pawn, taking the F pawn, giving up the A pawn, 4 versus 3. Now, let's see how black tries to convert this. There is a moment at some point where white has an opportunity to have a drawing move, but yeah, a difficult defense ahead. In fact, this is a good reply that white makes here. Rook A3. The threat here is rook D5 with the fork, which would force either a rook exchange or black is going to win a pawn. If it's a king and pawn endgame, black is for choice, being up a pawn. Black would be winning. White anticipates this and gets off of the 5th rank, rook A3. Rook D5, rook E3, and now we have G5. King G3, and next the move King G6 is played. This is allowing white to exchange off one of these weak pawns for a perfectly healthy pawn. A strong move here would be to play rook to D4, so we're revisiting the same idea of kind of coordinating well with the rook and the pawn on the F4 and H4 squares. You don't allow either white pawn to exchange for the G pawn. But as it was played, King G6, F4, H6, 3 versus 2 now. Black is the better side material-wise, and it's going to be closer to winning this pawn. It's tough to defend these 2 points. So rook G4, King F5, a check. The rook blocks. This is a good move. You don't want to take here because it's going to be tough to convert this. The rook is going to put pressure here, and black wants to win this pawn and have 2 connected pass pawns. That's basically a win. If black could somehow achieve this, win this pawn, give up this one, it's going to be a win. Rook e1, rook e4, and eventually we have the black king hide over here. White was doing well, just inserting checks, and has accomplished a little bit something here. This king on h6 is now cut off. This is where white has a moment to make a really strong move. If you'd like to pause the video, see what move white could play here that would be really strong. Okay, now in the game, rook f1 is played, just a little, returning to put some pressure on f7. But a strong move here would be rook g5. What makes that so strong? Well, it puts pressure on a pawn, defends another, and maybe the biggest factor, it cuts off the king. How does the black king get active now? Okay, well, we have rook f1 in the game. Rook e3 is a nice move to flush the king back a rank. Black king is getting back to some activity. King f5 and rook g5 here. So if the rook comes over for check, this is where black can actually step up to g4, afford to give up this pawn, because then both of these would be picked up. There'd be a two-pawn advantage. So we have rook g5 in the game, and eventually we have this scenario. All pawns passed, connected passers for black, just one for white, but it's tough to hang on to this pawn, especially since black has the superior king position. Rook f5 is a nice way to coordinate everything. These guys are all linked, defending everything. h5, king g5, and the pawns march. The h-pawn's going to be picked up, and there's no getting one of these pawns in return. So, from here, it's smooth sailing for Team Black. Slow, steady progress. The pawns continue to march, and we go right down to checkmate in this one, all the way to move 81. We are almost there. I think Tihon just had seconds remaining, but this is a 5-2 game, so you do gain 2 seconds when you make a move, and well, he's quick enough. Just a couple more, and move 81. Rook to e8 for mate is the one that did it. The one that made Tihon Chernyaev a double world chess champion. Tihon, you are a little Superman, I gotta say. And yeah, there's not a more fitting shirt for you. You'll have to make a comment below this video sometime and let everybody know what it feels like to experience that real first place confetti. I'm looking forward, I've said it before, I'm looking forward to tracking your progress. I just think you're fantastic, buddy. So, continued success.